Texas State Representative James Talarico is hitting the Texas campaign trail with Colin Allred, the Democratic candidate who is hoping to unseat Ted Cruz this November. Talarico is a bit of a Democratic darling around these parts because he's young, he's well-spoken, and he has a uniquely intersectional perspective. He is a proud practicing Christian and a Democrat. Those two things shouldn't be so strange whenever they exist within one person, but our political parties have become so homogenous over the years that a politician who identifies as a practicing Christian is more often than not safely assumed to be a Republican these days. After all, we are the godless left, are we not? That's what I keep hearing, at least. During the campaign stop, Talarico reminded voting Texans about how terrible Ted Cruz is at being a senator. At this point, it seems as though he just wears the title like a badge while committing unbelievable hours to his podcast. What has he done for Texas lately? It's really hard to say. As Talarico himself put it on X, quote, "I'm hitting the campaign trail for my friend Colin Allred as he takes on the worst senator in America."
On January 6th, Ted Cruz plotted to overturn the 2020 election and fanned the flames of insurrection. During the blackout that killed 700 of our fellow Texans, Ted Cruz hopped on a flight to Cancun, leaving his constituents and his own dog to shiver in the dark. And when Donald Trump called his wife ugly, Ted Cruz endorsed him anyway. If Ted Cruz will abandon his wife, his dog, and his country, what makes you think he won't abandon you? Colin Allred will never abandon Texas, and he will never abandon you. Right-wing extremists like Ted Cruz have taken over our state, and it's time to take Texas back.
But maybe Ted knows that he's not a very good senator. Maybe he gets that he's not really fit for the job, or maybe he's just lost interest in it. That would explain his lack of campaigning, even after he went out of his way to swindle the judicial system to overturn campaign finance laws. And I get it. I get bored if I do the same thing for too long, too. Ted's ready for more. Maybe the presidency. Of course, he has run for president before, so we know that that's always been within his line of sight. But it appears he's made the right decision for his political career, for his mental health, and for his personal dignity to not challenge Trump for the presidency this year. We all remember how that went back in 2016.
Lying Ted holds that Bible high, puts it down, and then he lies.
Donald is a bully. The man is utterly a moron.
For now, he says that he'll decide whether or not he'll be running in 2028, quote, down the road. Right now, he's committed to helping his friend Donald Trump get elected in November. Alternatively, maybe Ted doesn't really need to campaign in Texas. But that said, while I doubt any Texas Democrats could be convinced to vote for Ted Cruz, Allred's game plan is to convert some of those Republican voters away from Ted. Given the fact that Beto O'Rourke was so successful in doing exactly that in 2018, Allred stands a pretty good chance of making up some numbers, especially in the more rural parts of Texas that rarely see politicians come through. It'll still be a race, though. Current polling has Cruz ahead 7 points over Allred. Polling isn't an exact science, though, so take that for what it's worth. But on top of everything, Ted Cruz insulted his Texan constituents, specifically his Houstonian constituents, when he fled to Cancun while the rest of us, including his dog, who is ironically named Snowflake, froze in our homes. And to make matters worse, when people rightfully got mad about it, he went to Florida to make fun of the Texans who were mad, again, his constituents. We all remember the image of Ted at Bush International Airport with his not inconspicuous at all Texas flag face mask on. That's going to be a hard one for people to forget about at the voting booth. Anyway, Ted's still podcasting and making the rounds on right-wing media, which I guess is his way of campaigning, speaking directly to his people and to no one else. He's also making headlines for actually attempting to legislate right now, which is making headlines because it's such a rare occurrence. Headlines from the Washington Post and New York Times covering the story have referred to Cruz as an obstructionist who is, quote, better known for defeating bills. The Washington Post said, quote, the Texas senator spent weeks as a bipartisan deal maker, way out of his normal image. Will it be too little too late for Ted? Will Texas finally get a Democratic senator, or will it be 6 more years of Ted? I guess we'll see. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my podcast, Modern Context. Thanks.